was very into this particular topic. That was kind of one of her passions, and she wrote a lot about it. Um, and she just had a wonderful big heart, and she was very attuned to the toll that caregiving takes onto anyone. Um, but uh, I want to take a moment and focus us in on what we're doing here today because the rest of this conference has been pretty much geared toward Batten disease, has been geared toward the person with Batten disease, has been geared toward caring for that person, planning for that person, doing all of those things for our Batten babies. This session is different because I'm going to focus on you. I'm not going to talk about, I'm going to allude to it a time or two, but for the most part, I want you guys to be selfish with your time for the next hour and focus in on yourself. This is about you. This is for you. And I am at times not going to be nice. I'm going to kick you in the butt because you need your butt kicked because you're not taking care of yourself as you should. None of us do, myself included. But caregiving is a very specific badge that we wear, and it's one of the things I miss the most since I've lost my baby. So for those of you who don't know, the reason I am associated with BDSRA is my daughter had CLN2. She had late infantile. She was diagnosed in '08. We lost her in 2015. But because of my profession, my job, one of the ways that I kind of stay connected to the community is I give some lectures. And as a rehab psychologist, what that means is that I work with people with catastrophic injuries is kind of my specialty. I work at the VA hospital. I work only with adults. I don't work with pediatrics. My only experience with pediatrics is now with BDSRA and my own kid. So that is, when I'm speaking of you, to you more of a, as a parent in that regard. But today it's more professional. And one thing I do with my patients is we talk a lot with their families and their caregivers. So I end up working a lot with caregivers. And I think that that is one of the most important things that I do. And I am a psychologist. I don't like to claim that because I don't treat a lot of mental health disorders. I do a lot of health-related stuff. I work in spinal cord injury clinics. I work in the medical settings. I don't treat anxiety, depression, PTSD, schizophrenia. I don't do any of that. But what I do is I help people stick to their rehab plan. So that is my goal as a professional. And there's lots of different reasons why you don't do that. Maybe there's a mental health problem. I can at least diagnose that and figure that out. Maybe it's a issue with logistics. We just can't figure out how to take care of this person. But often it's an educational issue. And patients, what I mean by that is they don't understand why they do certain things, why we ask them to go do certain things, why we ask them to go to speech therapy when they don't talk anymore. For example, in my ALS clinic, why do I send somebody with a high-level spinal cord injury to physical therapy? Because they don't walk, they can't move their arms. Why do I go to physical therapy? These are the reasons why. And then they're typically more compliant. So that's what I hope to do with you today, is I hope to explain why you need to take care of yourself and what does that mean concretely. What does that mean? I know we're all supposed to be taking care of ourselves. It's this nebulous concept, but what does that mean? What does that look like? And I'm going to hope to give you some examples of that, but I'm going to start by explaining why. And the reason I explain why is because once you understand what stress does to your body, then you can understand what chronic stress does to your body, okay? But you first have to understand what stress does, and this is something we should all know. It's nothing that's I might use a few technical words, easy to understand, but I want you to understand it. I really want you to understand what it does to you physically, because stress is a wonderful invention. It's what kept our butts alive when we were fighting woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and stuff. That's stress. So there's an evolutionary standpoint, but I do have to acknowledge my baby. This is my baby. This is Mary Payton. She is the reason I am here. And the disease process, the coming to conference the first time or two, the traveling with a disabled child, the daily care that just all of us have to get through the world, all of that is stressful. So I like to tell you what stress does to you by telling you a little story about bears, okay? So imagine you are walking outside. It's a nice day, not as hot as it is today. I'm from Louisiana, so it's not any time over the summer. It is more of a spring day, humidity's low, you're enjoying the birds chirping, you feel good, enjoying nature, eating some trail mix, enjoying your existence. Everything's feeling good, my back's feeling good today, my knees are okay, everything's good. And all of a sudden you hear some leaves rustling and some twigs cracking, and you realize, uh-oh, that's a bear. Okay? Now, unless you're a bear expert, which I am not, you're scared at this point. On a scale of 0 to 10, you're a 10. Fight or flight, you've heard of that, fight or flight. Lots of things happen to you in that split second that your brain registers bear. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very, very technical drawing of a brain and spinal cord, which is your central nervous system, for those of you who don't know. When we talk about your CNS, your central nervous system, this is what we mean, your brain and your spinal cord. The eye off to the left is the little donut-looking thing. You can kind of get oriented. You have a couple areas of your brain that light up with metabolism when your brain registers bear. Okay, and metabolism is, if I had a functional MRI on your brain when it registered bear, you would see all these things glowing. There's a lot of uptake, a lot of activity happening in those particular areas. And those areas are called your hypothalamus and your thalamus, okay? Your hypothalamus, when that gets triggered, it triggers a little pea-sized gland underneath your brain. It's kind of at the very top of your nose here. If they ever have to do surgery on your pituitary, they actually go through your nose. A little pea-sized gland underneath your brain called the pituitary gland. When that gets stimulated, your heart starts beating very fast, okay? And then your pancreas excretes a substance that it stores in your pancreas called adrenaline. You might have heard of adrenaline, right? The adrenal glands produce that and those things, but most of it is stored in the pancreas, and it starts sending it into your bloodstream. And that's what gives us that superhuman strength to run like hell, fight like hell. I've heard of grandmothers lifting cars off their kids, off their grandkids. They might have hurt them, but the point is they were able to do it, okay? Gives us that superhuman boost, that superhuman strength, okay? And all of this, again, happens instantaneously, okay? So let's keep going with that. That's the central nervous system. Now let's talk about the peripheral nervous system, okay? The peripheral nervous system is essentially divided into, we're going to say 2 sections. There's actually a third, but we're going to say 2 sections. The somatic, which is voluntary. I'm going to come pick up my cup here. That's voluntary. And the autonomic, or kind of what we refer to as the automatic system. That's what makes your heart beat. That's what makes you take a deep breath without even having to think about it. All of those things, your blood flowing, all of those things are natural things that your nervous system is controlling. I want to zero in on that automatic, though. Automatic is divided into 2 sections, your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. And what makes this very interesting is that these 2 systems are always at odds with one another, okay? So that's what I want you to remember. They're always at odds with one another. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. When you were walking around eating your trail mix, enjoying the day, nice and relaxed, your parasympathetic nervous system had taken over. Your blood pressure's low. Your gastric juices are flowing. Your vessels are nice and dilated. Lots of blood flow going through. Blood pressure low, heart rate low, all of those things are happening. Now, when your brain registered bear, that took a back seat. And the sympathetic nervous system took over, okay? So we're gonna zero in on that for a second. Now you're understanding what's happening. This is the actual terms that we use. When we talk about you're being stressed, you're having a sympathetic response. When we talk about relaxing you, we're talking about deactivating the sympathetic response, okay? In my world, that's the technical terms we use. So this sympathetic nervous system, this is what happens when it gets activated, okay? So let's start on the bottom. Your GI tract shuts down because your body doesn't have time to break down and metabolize the trail mix you just ate. Doesn't have time. We're in danger mode right now. All, fight or flight. This bear's about to get me. You have your heart rate increases, like I mentioned. You have a huge dump of blood volume to your striated muscles or your skeletal muscles. Your big muscles. That's to help you move your skeleton to run like hell or fight like hell. They say not to run from a bear, but I'm running. He's going to have to catch me if he wants a snack. And heaven forbid he catches you and you get gashed, you lose blood. Your platelets get very sticky, and your platelets are responsible for clotting blood. So we think that has an evolutionary component to it, because your blood is your fuel line. Your blood is what gives you fuel to move. Without blood, you lose too much blood, it's all over. So we don't want you to lose blood. Your body doesn't want to lose blood, so your platelets get very sticky. In order for all of this to accomplish, your blood vessels constrict, and your heart starts beating and it starts pumping the blood where it needs to go. And you have a huge dump of what's called free fatty acids into your bloodstream. You know them by its other term, cholesterol. Heard the word cholesterol before? Free fatty acids into your blood are a backup fuel source. So if you run like hell for 50 yards, 70 yards, not even 100 yards, you've used up all the glucose in your blood. It's gone. You don't have any more. So you need a backup fuel source, because glucose is what makes things move. And your backup fuel source is cholesterol. Cholesterol is readily converted into glucose. You have a fuel source, glucose. You have a backup fuel source, cholesterol. So you ever hear doctors telling you if you have high blood sugar to exercise a little bit? If you ever have doctors tell you have high cholesterol, you should exercise, now you know why. You got to burn it. You got to burn it off. That's the best way to get rid of it. Now, what the hell does all this have to do with you? Your body doesn't know the difference between bare stress and everyday stress. Let me say that again. Your body doesn't know the difference between bare stress and everyday stress. This is what happens with everyday stress. Maybe not to the same degree, but to some extent, this happens. You ever hear of people saying, I'm nervous, I can't eat, I don't feel right, my stomach? Your GI tract is starting to shut down. You ever been speeding and you pass a cop and your hands get cold and clammy? Oh shoot, your heart starts beating fast a little bit. Your blood vessels are constricting. You're not getting the blood flow to your hands where they need to be. My wife just told me my in-laws are coming in a couple weeks. I'm already at a 4 on a scale of 0 to 10. When I get home, I got to clean the house. I got to do the outside. I got to do all the stuff I'm supposed to do to get the house ready for the in-laws. Everyday events cause, to some degree, a sympathetic response. So this is what you're looking at when we have a stressful event happening. Now, everyday events, extrapolate that. Start thinking about that. What happens with everyday events? These are just common everyday occurrences, right? Nothing too crazy. Just our normal chaotic lives. Traffic, family issues, job issues, money issues, any kind of chronic physical health concerns, mental health concerns. But then we factor in caring for kids, caring for special needs kids, dealing with the insurance companies, dealing with the insurance company denials, dealing with doctor's appointments, talking to people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of that increases your stress level. You're developing a sympathetic response. That's natural. That's normal. That gives you the energy that you need to deal with this crap. But what about chronically? That's what I worry about, though. Chronically. Chronically, what happens? Even fun events, guys. Fun events are supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be relaxing. Does that look relaxing? That's utter chaos right there. That's just an old birthday party picture that we had. Look at the amount of chaos going on in that one picture. That makes me stressed just thinking about it. At the end of that birthday party, that type of a birthday party, you go home and you're like, oh, you're exhausted. Remember that deep breath. I'm going to go back to that in a second. Birthday parties cause stress. These are not everyday events. These are the extra things. Life's little bumps and bruises, like when my baby fell, I had to deal with that. This list right here is obviously not all exhaustive. I don't think I could produce an exhaustive list. What I want you to recognize about this list, though, is that other stressful things can occur even when they're supposed to not be stressful, like vacation, holidays, starting a new job, retirement. Man, I can't wait to get to retirement. You know when the divorce rate is highest? After retirement. For those people who have made it through 5 years after they both retire and they're not divorced, congratulations. You've beat some of the odds. I mean, this is what happens. These situations cause adjustment, and humans do not like adjustment. Humans do not like that. We seek a stability. That's what we want. We all want stability. We all want to know what's expected of us. That's what our bodies and our minds want to do. You ever met someone who said, I love change? Change is wonderful. They're lying. They're absolutely lying, and they're lying to themselves. Good on them. I'm glad they have that free spirit. They're totally full of you know what. They do not like change. Our bodies do not like adjustment. It is hard to adjust. Even for fun things, like I said, Christmas, vacations, those kind of things. So you can see that any of this can really cause stress to the system. But before I badmouth stress too much, remember, I said stress is not always bad for you. It kind of gives you that energy to do what you got to do. Stress is what got my butt through grad school. You know, I'm not going to start on that paper you assigned me in September if it's not due to December. Pfft, are you kidding me? I've got to wait till my stress level hits a certain level, then I'll start. It's motivating, in other words. Stress can be very motivating and to some degree energizing. However, once you start having symptoms, it's not safe to ignore those. And most of these symptoms are silent. What does high cholesterol feel like? What does hypertension feel like? Unless you're that high, you're not going to know. You don't know. Your blood pressure has to be pretty high before you really feel it. Just elevated blood pressure, you don't feel that. But all of that can be taking its toll on your body. And that's when people typically fall into a few habits. And I call them the big dirty three. What do people do when they eat? When they're stressed? They eat, right? What else do you do when you're stressed? Sleep? What else? What do other people do when they're stressed? Huh? Cry? Hey, that's probably one of the most adaptive things you're going to hear. What do y'all do when you're stressed? Drink? That's actually my wife taking a shot, by the way. They eat, they drink. And another one people do, maybe a little less nowadays, smoke. For my people who do smoke, one of the reasons they have a hard time giving up smoking is that it's stress relieving. Why would nicotine, putting a stimulant in your body, feel relaxing? It doesn't. The answer is it doesn't. The reason why smoking feels relaxing is because the other stuff they're doing when they smoke. It has nothing to do with the nicotine they're using. What do smokers do? We can learn from smokers. What do? Number one, they take a break. I don't take a break all day. I get to work, I don't take a break till lunch. I'm supposed to have 15 minutes every 2 hours at work according to federal employee standards. Pfft, yeah, right. I don't take a break, but have you ever tried taking a cigarette break away from a smoker? They will cut your head off. That's not going to happen. They will cut your head off, right? So, number one, they take a break. Number two, they usually distract themselves while they're taking that break. There used to be a smoke shack behind the hospital. These little old ladies were in there laughing, telling jokes, having a ball. Smoking them quick, but having a ball, and that's wonderful. I should do that. I should go take a break and do something, but you have your clinics back to back to back to back. I don't have time for a break, and that's not good. But smokers take that time. They take it, and good for them. So they're taking a break, they're relaxing, but what's the number one thing smokers do? I gave you a hint earlier when I said that. That's not on accident. Let's go back to our bear example. You run from a bear. You get into your log cabin and you put the big door down and you put the big thing behind the door and you're nice and safe. The bear can't get to you. What's the first thing you're going to do? That's not on accident. That's not on accident. That is your body's way of saying, I'm cool. I'm safe. I can breathe now. That is sympathetic deactivation. That's why it feels relaxing. All of that sympathetic thing that I listed, the opposite happens when you take deep breaths. That's a natural, normal reaction to what you're supposed to be doing. And I want you to learn from that. We all should learn from that. I taught when she gave her first speech in elementary school, I taught my second grader that years ago. That second grader is now about to start college in 1 month. But when she was in second grade, she had to give a speech in front of the whole assembly. And I told her, I said, go up to the microphone and take a deep breath. And she did. She went, she was a very concrete kid. God love her. But it helps. It deactivates that sympathetic response. It activates the parasympathetic system, which makes you feel relaxed. It lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate, dilates your blood vessels, helps your GI tract flow, simply by taking a deep breath. Now imagine if we did that all the time. Why don't we do it all the time? Some people do. Some people meditate and do all this stuff. I don't have time for that mess, but that's what they do. So chronically then, if you're not doing that, it has consequences. So we're going to go through that in a second. But what I want to ask all of you guys is, what do you do to deactivate the sympathetic response? What do you do to relax, to de-stress? What do you do? You said cry. What else? And get adjusted. Oh, adjusted, but like chiropractor? Okay. What else? Nice. Very good. Also impacts your enteric system, which is the third system, which I didn't mention. You actually have a third system which controls the digestive tract. We call it the enteric system. We're learning more and more about that now as a science. But as Batten disease is getting researched, Batten disease is starting to learn how Batten disease impacts the enteric system and the enteric nervous system. We don't go into it a whole lot. I don't go into it in this lecture, but it has huge implications for gut health. And we're just now learning all kinds of stuff related to gut health and starting to incorporate that in wellness programs through hospitals, just FYI. But anyway, what do y'all do? What do you do when you're to de-stress? What do you do? Yeah. Eat and drink. Okay. What do you guys do? Exercise? Go outside. Outside? What do you do outside? Isn't that amazing that you've been doing it? You kind of stumbled on it. You figured that out. That's sometimes that's all you need to do. Take a deep breath. It's also sometimes hard to find that time. Exercise is huge. I will mention that specifically in a minute. I'm a huge fan of exercise. I'll explain why in a minute, but that is one of my primary coping strategies is exercise. And frankly, I've been pretty selfish about it. If I don't get my exercise, then I am not nice to be around. That's how much I rely on it. Pros and cons. What else? Anybody else do anything else? Sleep? Travel? Anybody travel? Just doing kind of a longer term. You have kind of, to me, you have your daily coping strategies and your long-term strategies, like traveling, seeing friends. You do anything like that? Acupuncture? Wonderful. How long have you been doing that? It's wonderful, isn't it? In your ear? Oh, auricular therapy. Yes. Yes, acupressure. You can pinch certain things in your ear. What she's describing with acupuncture on the ear is what we call auricular therapy. And you have like what's called a homunculus. You have a certain thing around your ear that certain areas are supposed to help certain areas of the body, like your spine, like your gut, like your brain, your blood flow, blah, 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 your heart. And they do all of this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Aromatherapy. That's incredible. That is very California of you. It absolutely works, and I make light of it because I think if I whipped out a lavender ball when I'm on the golf course with my idiot friends, I would never hear the end of it. But it definitely has its benefit, and you're also getting the benefit of the deep breath, of course, and all that stuff. But all I can say when it comes to what we're kind of describing, some of that with adjustments and acupuncture and massage, all of that is very Eastern medicine. It's not Western medicine. And one thing, after having worked in Western medicine my entire career, Western medicine docs are snobby. They think that Eastern medicine doesn't know what the hell they're doing. But thousands of years of Chinese medicine can't be wrong, right? They've been around a lot longer than we have. And generally speaking, using some other terms, it's the difference between allopathic medicine versus osteopathic medicine. Allopathic is very prescribed. You're going to do this, you're going to do this. Osteopathic is very holistic. That's when you ask about your diet. That's when you ask about exercise, sleep, all of the other wellness activities that we're all supposed to be doing, and none of us are batting 1,000 at it. But all of that's important when it comes to my talks, right? So good. Some people have some wonderful routines already in place. Because if you don't, there's gonna be consequences. Okay? So if you don't use this energy physically, your body's gonna stay tense. Because if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Your body's gonna stay tense because it's storing energy for you to run like hell or fight like hell. So if you don't do anything with it, what happens? It's gonna cost you. It's gonna cost you. Usually your body stays tense. And it comes in the form of body aches, headaches, those kind of things. That's pretty common. I think people can wrap their brain around that. It actually makes you sicker easier. It lowers your white cell counts. You have different types of white blood cells, but it'll lower your white cell counts, which impairs your immune system. You're going to get sicker easier. And when you do get sick, you're going to get sicker. You're going to be a little bit more sick. Your body's not going to have that kind of a reaction. Other physical consequences. Well, we talked about hypertension already. Other consequences are emotional. You might be less able to handle other stressors. If my air conditioning went out, being in Louisiana, in New Orleans, at this time of year, let's just say I would go immediately stay at a hotel. That's just, there's no question. I'm going to stay at a hotel. That's just, there's no, I get so upset when air isn't on, or if things are hot, or if my office is too hot at work, Louisianians do not mess around when it comes to our air conditioning. You better keep us cool, otherwise we're going to be pissy during the summer. It's already hot enough outside. I don't need it to be hot in my office. But I'm less able to handle those types of stressors on a daily basis. Other things can trigger those things too. And who's going to get the brunt of it? People that we feel most comfortable with, people that are around us. You're going to be moody or short, typically with those that are around you. This can lead to irritability. This can lead to actual depression symptoms. This can lead to chronic anxiety or nervousness. Let me mention Batten disease for a second. When Mary Peyton was first diagnosed with Batten disease, I didn't sleep. My wife slept. That was her reaction to the stress. She slept and slept and slept. She slept whenever she could, 12, 14 hours a day. I slept 3 hours a day. So we had very different reactions to the same thing, and that's fine. I don't know exactly how you're going to respond. I think you mentioned earlier that you sleep. You're a sleeper when you get stressed. Very common reaction. Some people just feel wound down and they just don't have any energy. Behaviorally, what does that look like? We already talked about eating and overeating. It can lower your self-control. It can make you feel tired and fatigued to where you're just having a hard time, you're dragging through the day. It also, for some people, that irritability can actually lead to anger outburst. And that's when people start maybe seeking mental health treatment. I've seen that a lot. Like in some of I don't work in mental health, but back when I did, people would often come into therapy or request treatment when something happened, when they behaved in a way that they weren't proud of. Either they drove drunk, or they got into a fist fight in front of their grandkids at a snowball stand, or they yelled at their boss, threw something through a window, blah, blah, blah. All of those things are things I actually heard, by the way. So when you behave in a way you're not proud, that's typically a big red flag, of course. It can make you look like you have an inability to slow down and relax, which was my reaction. I could not fall asleep. I could not settle down. I had to read and read and read. Sleeping problems. It can lead to sleeping problems. That picture is actually my other daughter, who I actually found her like that. She was a crazy sleeper. And who knows what she was picking up on in the household at that time. This is after Batten disease, so who knows. And of course, I cannot forget about cognitively. Cognitively, it can make you seem like you are forgetful, like you're dementing. I don't know what's happening. I can't concentrate on anything. And let me reassure you, you're probably not dementing. You didn't pay attention to where you put your keys. That's why you can't remember where you put your keys. Okay? That's usually what happens. You're running, your attention is pulled in 18 different directions, and now you can't find your keys. Now you can't find XYZ because you didn't remember where you put them. You didn't pay attention to where you put it, though. That's why you don't remember it. Of course, it can lower work productivity if you're still working or trying to do some type of project, and it can lead to poor judgment. We might make a snap decision that we wouldn't otherwise make. Now, what do we do about it? I told you what stress does to you physically. Now you have an understanding. What do we do about it? Look what's first. And the reason physiologically is when you're exercising, you are using that energy that your body has stored, and the moment you stop exercising, you have a sympathetic deactivation. Your body goes, whew, and that is a natural, normal reaction to that's what we're getting at. Your heart rate's going to come down, your blood pressure is going to come down, your muscles are going to start getting depleted as they go back down. They're going to lose that blood volume that went into your blood. Your GI tract starts moving again. All of those things are sympathetic deactivation. That's what we're going after. On a chemical level, it's also natural antidepressants. If anybody's ever taken an antidepressant, SSRI, SNRI, if anybody's ever taken an anxiolytic, a benzodiazepine drug, all of those things, exercise is much more effective of a drug than any of those drugs I just named off. and it's natural. You get a lot of it naturally. The uptake automatically happens. We're not having to artificially put extra stuff here and there and everywhere. I'm not saying those drugs aren't effective. What I am saying is that this is more effective. It's better than talking to me. It's better than taking a pill. It's the best thing you can do. The other thing you can do is take care of yourself. Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like. We talked a little bit about already what your coping strategies are. That's taking care of yourself. Do y'all actually do it? I know you eat and drink. But do y'all actually do the things you talked about? Do you actually exercise as much as you should, as much as you want to? I know I don't. I try to. What I'm saying is that our intentions can even be good, and we can even have great strategies put forth, but we're not batting 1,000 at it. And this is my time to tell you, as caregivers, you need to get better at it. Have you ever heard the term, you need to put your oxygen mask on first? Have y'all ever heard that? I really like that analogy because I think it works perfectly, particularly when it comes to our community. If you guys aren't getting the oxygen you need, you're useless. And maybe that's a little harsh, but I think that it's not too harsh. You're not doing things like you would normally do things, like you would want to do things. You're getting through the day, but there's a difference between getting through the day and really living and getting something out of the day. And what I see the most from coming to conference now, gosh, I can't believe it's been this long, but probably about 17 years, is I see some families and some individuals really struggle with this. They know that they're supposed to be getting the care that they need, but they just don't have time for it. They don't want it. They're choosing other things. And that care is really what I want to focus in on. I want to make sure you guys as caregivers get the care you need. I want your oxygen mask to go on first, because if not, then we're all screwed. That plane's going down. And even if when it crashes and hopefully not burns, even if there's survivors, it's not going to be fun. And the ship and the plane analogy, just it just runs a lot more smoothly when you've got your oxygen. And that's what I want. And that's what you want ultimately. But there's short-term strategies, there's long-term strategies, there's all these different types of care. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today. Not just, okay, we're supposed to exercise, eat right, get enough sleep, blah, 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 blah. But what else? I want you guys having something to look forward to. Plan some trips, do those things. I would rather you plan the trip and the damn thing get canceled than you not plan the trip. Because planning a trip and thinking about a trip are fun. That's what we're supposed to do. Going on the trip can be stressful. But it's something to look forward to, and that's the point. And plans can always change, even with non-Batten families. But I want you guys to have that to look forward to. As couples, if you have a partner, I want you continuing to work on that relationship. Don't forget about your partner. Don't forget about you as a couple. Don't forget about not just getting through the day, not just not fighting. I want you guys to come together, because as a team, you're much stronger than with one. I want you to work on that romantic side, that intimacy side. I want all of that for you again, because that will help get you through and add that quality of life. Yes, you're a caregiver, but you might also be a partner. And I don't want you to forget that partner side. I want you to remember that side. I want you to remember all the other relationships. I want you to remember the fact that, for those of you who had seen my sidekick the last couple of days, I'm here staying at a friend of mine's house. He and I were fraternity brothers back in college. Once a year, me and my boys get together. That's self-care. That's what I mean by self-care. And a couple times I've had to cancel over the years, but I planned it and I look forward to that. And then usually at the end of those 3 or 4 days, I regret that I did what I did. I'm exhausted and I'm tired because none of us can drink and party like we used to. But those are the things that I'm talking about. That's self-care. Plan those little dinners with your partners. Even if it's running out to McDonald's or Chick-fil-A and grabbing dinner and there's nothing else around, set the phone down and it's just the two of you and it's 20 minutes. That 20 minutes is invaluable and it might just save your marriage. That's self-care. All of those things are self-care. You've got the daily stuff. You got the exercise, eating right. Then you have the longer term stuff. Then you have the bigger picture stuff. Then you have the relationship stuff. All of that is self-care. And all of that helps your Batten kids. Y'all understand that? I think most of y'all can grasp that. If you're happy, if your oxygen mask is on, the Batten journey is going to be that much easier. None of it's hard. None of it's easy. It all sucks. But it's going to be easier, trust me, if all of that happens. So I want you to take care of yourself. Exercise, take care of yourself. Be around others who make you feel good while avoiding those who bring you down. That's one of the reasons I come to conference. I'm around other people who make me feel good. And so that I can connect to that side of myself. I'm still Mary Peyton's dad. She hasn't been with us in a while, but I'm still a Batten dad. I'm still one of you. I'm still in the Batten community. I'm here not because I chose to be. I'm here because I want to be. Because I am one of you. And where else would I be? I'm going to keep coming as long as the Spirit moves me to do those things, and I'm going to keep doing lectures and try to help. If one or two things I say in any of my lectures help somebody, then it's worth it to me to keep coming. But selfishly, I also like to reconnect. I like to still be Mary Peyton's dad. I like to see the new kids. I hate that they're diagnosed, but they remind me of my baby. I love being around them. That's one reason why I come. It makes me feel good. It's self-care to me. Make time for fun. I strongly recommend comedy movies instead of drama movies and stuff. Laughing is a sympathetic deactivator, right? So if you're laughing, you're not stressed. You can't be. Those two things can't coexist. You can be a little stressed, but it's going to reduce your stress if you're laughing. Trust me. So laughing, making time for fun, being around other people who are fun is good for you. It is good self-care. This is my daughter's foundation. Those are the people that founded it and helped. That was at one of our first fundraisers. And I really mean that, though. Accept help from others. But their concerns. How can I accept help from others? Number one, I can't afford a babysitter. Can't afford anybody that would know what to do. Can anybody take care of my kid like I do? What if I miss something? What if I miss something big? What if I miss something small? I don't want to not spend time with them. Those are real things that I hear from people. And they're real reasons why they don't take care of themselves and don't get breaks and don't take breaks. And I hear you. I realize all of that. They are real concerns. And flipping, do them anyway. Do them anyway. Nobody could tuck in my baby like I tucked her in. Nobody. No, I tucked her in like a little burrito. I put the pillow under her head. I had something on her back. I put something between her knees. She's having her myoclonic jerks and moving around, and I would have to readjust her, but she was perfectly comfortable. I straightened her spine, went opposite the scoliotic curve. I knew exactly what I was doing. And I still needed to take my wife out to dinner, and she needed to be in that bed without our supervision for 2 or 3 hours, and then I went and tucked her in the right way. Because without those 2 or 3 hours with my wife, we would be divorced. You still need to do it. No, nobody tucked her in the right way. That's okay. She's okay. She went to sleep after I tucked her in. She was more comfortable. But she was okay in the bed for a couple of hours. It'll be okay. It'll be okay if the medicine's a little late. The half-life of medicine can overlap. It's fine. I know that, but it's a control thing. It's the one thing we can control as parents. We can control when that damn medication goes in. And so we hold on to that. And what I'm telling you is it'll be okay. If it's a little bit late, if they don't get the full dose, it's a cumulative effect. Everything's okay. So hear it from another Batten parent. do it anyway. Get out of the house, take care of yourself, take care of those relationships, keep strengthening them up. Helping other people, I think, is not cheating. One reason I come here is I try to help other people. That makes me feel good. That's a stress relief to me, selfishly. That's one thing I get out of it. Renewing your spiritual values, that's not cheating either. Some people get a lot of peace out of prayer, out of taking some deep breaths, out of doing those things. Don't forget that. Don't forget that's part of your overall coping strategies. There's 60 things you're supposed to be doing to take care of yourself. That might be really one that's important to you. Learn relaxation techniques. Remember what I said about the deep breath, right? It's the automatic sympathetic deactivator. It will activate your parasympathetic system, deactivate your sympathetic nervous system just by taking a deep breath. It's also foundational in every relaxation exercise that you can possibly think of. Meditation, yoga. Let's put my California hat on. What am I forgetting? Yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, all of these things that they do out in California much more routinely. Massage, exactly. All of those things are part of a nice wellness program. And a sympathetic deactivator, but it starts with that deep breath, right? It starts with taking a deep breath. Progressive muscle relaxation, hypnosis, sleep induction exercises, they all start with deep breaths. That's where it begins. So never forget the power of just a deep breath. These last four are kind of philosophical, but I throw them in there anyway. Tell the truth. Lies are stressful. More specifically, keeping up lies are stressful. Live one day at a time. Don't procrastinate. And talk about your problems, even if you're not talking to another human. Prayer counts. Journaling counts. Writing things down. When it gets from this magical space up here outside in some way, either through the written medium or verbal medium, it helps you organize, and it's very therapeutic. Even if it's not in therapy or you're trying to do therapy, it can still be therapeutic to kind of organize those thoughts. So try to talk about those things. Don't procrastinate. And that is all I have for this presentation. So y'all talk to me. What's been your barriers at this point? Beg your pardon? The picture is my babies at it was at a little park near my house. It was right after Mary Peyton was diagnosed. Mary Peyton's on the left. That's her little sister on the right. And they were sharing leaves together. They were looking at leaves together. And a photographer volunteered to take their pictures for some of our ads when we first started getting Mary Peyton's Miracle Foundation underway. And that was just one of my favorite little pictures. It's very peaceful to me. Of course, it's cute and it makes me smile, but it's also, for some reason, very peaceful to me. Very innocent, very peaceful. Makes me feel good when I look at that picture. But what's been your barriers? What's preventing you from taking care of yourself? Or do you think you are taking care of yourself? And if so, share how you do that. Yes, ma'am.
So my problem is that, my impulses are at odds with each other. Or, I know that I should exercise for multiple reasons, and I'm bad at it because I also really want to sleep.
Lots of competing drives there.
So how do I kind of tamp down the one? I know sleep is important, but I feel like more exercise would be helpful. But just knowing that is not necessarily enough to get my ass off the couch.
So full disclosure, I'm a former personal trainer. So, exercise has been kind of foundational in my life. When I was studying and going through qualifying exams and licensure stuff, I became like a marathon runner. and I'm not a runner. I'm an exerciser. I'm a jogger. I'm not a runner. I just had to go out and run. I was so stressed, I just ran. And that's when I realized how powerful exercise was. And then when my daughter was diagnosed and all of those things, and I couldn't sleep, I chose to exercise, which will help with sleep. Number one, you're going to be tired. And when you do go to sleep, without getting too technical, it will actually improve the quality of your sleep. It'll help you achieve REM sleep quicker. REM sleep is the qualitative restorative sleep. You'll get into those REM cycles a little quicker. You will sleep deeper, you will get more quality, and you will stay asleep longer just by exercising. So if I had to pick one of the two, I would choose exercise because you're also getting the neurochemical benefit of it. You're getting the natural antidepressants, the natural anti-anxiety properties from that exercise. Aside from just you'll feel better physically. You're going to be more physically able to do everything you have to flipping do, whether it's lifting your kid, whether it's, moving things around physically, but also just the stamina of getting through the day. So in other words, I think exercise will help your sleep. That's why I would recommend kind of focusing in on that. Now, as a personal trainer, I'm also I'm in reality. I understand. Not everybody can be motivated to get up off the couch. So the first thing I would do when I would train somebody is I would be very clear in terms of what are your goals from this training. And 98% of guys say I want to look buff and eat and drink what I want. And 98% of women say I want to lose weight and I want a better butt. And then I would say, what are you willing to do? And what are you not willing to do? Which is always an interesting answer. So what you have to do logistically is figure out what are you willing to do? What can you do given your constraints, your time constraints or whatever? So for example, one easy solution would be, just go for a walk. Put on some tennis shoes. I don't call them sneakers. I'm from the South. Put on some tennis shoes. Go out for a little walk. Go out for a little jog, fast walk, whatever. Get your heart rate up. Come back. In Louisiana, you're not going outside right now. It's flipping hot. It's 115 heat index. So logistically, that's not going to happen. So we got to figure out, what are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? Most women are not willing to do strength training, for example. One of the things I used to always do with my females is I would give them strength training things to do, particularly because of their shoulders, because when women fall, they break their shoulders or they separate their shoulders. I'm worried about safety, number one. So I would always make them do some type of strength training, even if it's only once a day. Just some type of strength training. But that was hard to get them to do that. And the other big thing, of course, is diet. People don't want to change their diet. So I had to do my little psychology thing back before I was a psychologist. This was all before I was a psychologist. And tell them a different way of looking at food and envisioning food. Food as fuel as opposed to pleasure. And those of us in Louisiana think that's blasphemy. You're supposed to enjoy everything. Enjoy your breakfast, enjoy your lunch, enjoy your dinner, and blah, 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 blah. Why? Food is tiring to me. Food is supposed to be fuel. It's supposed to fuel your body. Who has time to sit there and prepare a meal and, have all these spices? And who can cook like our grandmothers anyway? I don't have that kind of time or energy. So that's something I was unwilling to do, is change that. But some people are, not willing to change their diet. So that was the biggest thing in terms of reaching their goals and their better butt. All women want better butt and to lose weight. All men want to be buff and be able to eat pizza and drink beer. It was that simple. See how easy it is to be a personal trainer? The exercise is only 20% of your outcome anyway. It might even not be that high. It's 20%. What you do in the gym is only 20%. What you put in your mouth is 75%. And what you don't put in your mouth. But again, realistically, what are people willing to do? What can they do? And then they start developing plans around that. And if you want me to help you, I'm happy. I freaking love doing that stuff. So catch me at dinner, and I'll happily put together a little training plan for you. Freaking love doing stuff like that. Kind of figuring it out, giving you a few pointers. Because frankly, it can be pretty easy, but some people just don't really know what to do. So Did I answer your question? Okay. Anything else?
I almost feel like I was better about managing my stress the first 2 years that Anna was diagnosed, and these last 2 years, it's it's been worse. And if that if that pattern continues, then when she really needs me, you know, I won't be able to do what I need to do. So what I've done, and I like the whole natural side of things, but for the life of me, I had to go on something.
Hmm.
And then I had to go on the antidepressant first just to get my mind to where I could stay focused on a task and complete it. But then that created where I could actually think about things,
Yeah.
which then here comes the chronic anxiety. And I've had some really good conversations with people about how they feel and what it feels like to them. So I know that I'm not crazy, you know, because
Right.
I feel the same way. But I need to get to where hopefully I can get to the place where using the antidepressant, using the anti-anxiety, and understanding that other people are feeling that way, I can get myself to a place where I can manage it better. Because what it is it is becoming chronic,
Right.
even with medication. So that's
So two things. Number one, don't feel like you're failing because you have to be on a med.
right.
The majority of parents end up opting to take something, either for sleep or just an antidepressant or whatever. And my only response to that is it helping? And if the answer is yes, then you're on the right path. No judgment. If the answer is no, then we really need to rethink it. We really need to rethink it.
There are certain things that it's helping.
Yeah. Well, then there's that. At least there's that.
But in the grand scheme of things, I just said to my husband, on the way down here, I said, you know what it feels like to be nervous? And he was like, okay, yeah, kinda. I was like, that's
Kinda.
from the top of my head to the tips of my toes, that's where it is.
So,
You know,
when do you not feel nervous? How can we deactivate that sympathetic response? Because what you're talking about is a chronic sympathetic reaction. How can we deactivate that? When do you start off? When do you not feel that way? Is there any time that you don't feel that way?
well, I happened to recognize last night that when I was laying in bed next to my husband, I didn't feel anything. And it was fabulous, but I never really recognized it until last night. Um,
That's what intimacy can do. That's what and I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about the physical intimacy, the physical touch, that kind of thing. That intimacy, that's part of your care plan. And I want you to always keep that. That's what you need. You need more of that. That's one thing. What else?
day in and day out, it's constant. It's constant. And I need to exercise. I should probably just bring my Peloton to school and have a break, and ride.
Again, logistically, we got to work out the logistics,
Because 5 a.m. is too darn early, and 6 o'clock at night, people need me.
Y'all know why I'm not in the military for career? 5 a.m. is too damn early. I totally agree with her. That's ridiculous. I don't know why you just can't do it at 7:30. It's ridiculous. Why do we have to run at 5:30? That's ridiculous. It's stupid. But anyway, pish posh. But seriously, I think that you are on the right path. I think you know the right things. I think you found some things that help. I think you are still discovering things that are helpful. And the new psychobabble term that we use for that, by the way, is mindfulness. I want to sound like a California person for a second. Is mindfulness. Mindfulness is when you're aware of what's going on with you. You were aware that in that moment, you had deactivation. You had sympathetic deactivation. Do more of it. As long as it's not illegal, immoral, or fattening, do more of it. That's what I always tell people. If it makes you feel good and it's none of those things, go for it. So keep doing those things. and keep searching, keep finding other things that work. And I think you're going to get a big, I remember you from the past, and I think you're going to get a big reaction and a big response if you could ever logistically work in getting some routine exercise in. And I think that will help a lot with a lot of different things. But what you're describing is kind of a generalized anxiety feeling. It's not just about one thing, it's now invading your entire life. And this is what chronic stress looks like. I'm going to pick on you, but you did a great job explaining it, giving us an example. This is what chronic anxiety looks like. And over time, it's going to hurt you if we don't do something about it.
I feel it. Just talking about it. It's like and it just magnetizes and over in my throat, and I feel like it's skipping. My heart's skipping a beat, and so then I think, man, if it's really right here, and I'm feeling like it's affecting my heart, it's probably really. I mean, it's deeper than what I even know. You know, this is the third year that I've been to your talk, and I have gotten something different out of it every single.
I love that. And the reason you've gotten something different out of it is you're a different person every time. You're changing. You're changing. First of all, just this disease changes all of us. But secondly, you're changing, and you need different things at different times, you know. And so at that moment, you were listening for certain things in the past. Today, you're listening for certain things. Certain things I said, I might have said something different too. Struck a chord, struck a nerve, struck something with you. So you never know, you know, what you're going to hear. And remember this myth: it's safe to ignore minor symptoms. Of course it's not. So the minor symptoms that you're having is telling us that something's cooking, you know, and I don't know what that is. And there's I don't want to get into the medical side of things too much, but there's endocrine changes that happen. There's hormone changes. Cortisol is the stress hormone. Those are elevated in all of our Batten parents and things. Those are the types of things that have long-term health consequences, you know. So what do we do about it? Well, the first thing we got to do is give our bodies what it needs. We all know we're supposed to be exercising. Goes without saying. We all know we're supposed to be eating right. Or if it's how I approach my 18-year-old, eat right stuff first and then eat the crap. Because then I know at least you're getting vitamins and nutrients that you need. If you're not getting the fuel your body needs, your body is not going to react well. It's not good for you. It's not good for anybody, whether you're 18 or 78. It's not good for any of us. So at least eat the right thing. If you're going to eat the trash, fine. The Lord said, you know, he never said don't sin. He just said don't wallow in it. You can go have some ice cream. You can go have some drinks. Doesn't matter. But as long as you're fueling your body first and foremost, I think that's the big thing, you know. So I hope it's helpful, you know. And like I said, don't ignore those minor symptoms. Those are red flags going off, you know. And moms will give till it hurts. Dads will too, different ways. But moms sometimes will go until they can't. They're going to run that car even when it's running out of gas. Thank you for that, though. Anything else, guys? Yes? Mm-hmm. Exactly. For my wife, who was exactly like you, she work was I want, I don't know how your work is for you, but for her work, and she always worked. She worked the entire time Mary Peyton was with us. Um, that was her coping. So think about work as being kind of a time away from your family reality. That was okay. Okay. Does your child go to that same school? Okay. Okay. Yeah, definitely a trigger. And strangely, I was kind of the same way. I didn't go to work for the VA until later. A previous in a previous life, I worked at a residential intermediate care facility for folks with developmental disabilities, and I had kids with other not kids, they were adults mostly, some adolescents, but with other lysosomal storage disorders. And so for me, work was a reminder as well, so it's definitely there. But at the same time, it wasn't. It wasn't home. It wasn't Mary Peyton. I was watching people having seizures at work all the time. My heart rate doesn't blip. You just go into modes and you just do it. When my baby had her first seizure, I completely locked up. And I know everything I'm supposed to do, and I did none of it. My brain shut down because it's my baby. And so all that to say is that work to me was coping. I was able to continue to work. My wife was able to continue to work. School was a wonderful option for us. It was a good option for my baby. Outside of school, we had like daycares and things that were able to help. The problem that my wife had was that she wouldn't unplug. I would go for a run. I said, I got to run. And I would run, I would come back, and then I would take over. But then she wouldn't leave. I'm like, no, this is my time. I got this. You go do you for 2 hours. And she wouldn't. And so then the onus becomes on him to say, get the hell out of the house. Go do what you got to do. Go take a bath. Go splash some water in your face in the bathroom. Go for a walk. Go eat dinner with your friends. Go to bed. Go do it. What'd you say? She didn't listen either. She didn't listen either. I kept saying it. I kept saying it over and over and over. And, once in a while she would actually do something. I live in New Orleans, so I remember for a few years she rode in a carnival crew. And that's just not a one night thing for those of you who don't know New Orleans and carnival. It's an ongoing thing. There's parties and there's routine meetings and all that stuff. So she was able to kind of get out of the house a little bit. That was helpful. She found a club that she could kind of participate in a little bit. And miss it if she had to. If something's going on, But you just have to find what that is. You have to find what like I said with her, I strongly recommend doing the healthy stuff too, using that time for that. But listen to the love in his voice when he says, get the F out of the house. He means that out of the kindness of his heart. And my wife would say it to me too. She would say, you need to go for a run because I was losing my stuff. And I knew, shit, you're right. Okay, let me do it. Yeah, but it took me a little while. So just developing that communication between the two of you. And again, if I have to pat you on the back hard enough and low enough, I'm happy to do that too. But when he says to do that, that's what he's doing. He's telling you need a break, boo. Go. And take him up on it. So you gotta start doing that more. Taking up on other people, using your resources within reason, but using your resources as you guys are comfortable so that y'all can work on y'all and so that you can work on you. And he's a great resource. Make him put his ass to work for an hour and a half while you go do something. And it sounds like he's willing. He's trying to get you out the house, but somebody's not listening. For those of y'all who haven't been noticing, they've been bumping each other the whole talk. And she'll hit him they've been bumping. What else, guys? I know y'all got other places to be. What else? Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Guilt is a real big deterrent. And what I usually try to say is, what's the alternative? You know, and I work with them and their concerns. You know, I deal with that a lot, working with the adult populations, because I will frequently have a spouse that's the sole caregiver. And so they're like, well, I can't leave him. What happens if he needs me? Well, then you come back. But what are the odds? It happens, but what are the odds? Get the hell out of the house. Go eat. It doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be long. You don't have to take, I'm not telling you to go take a month in Europe. I'm telling you to go to dinner. You know, go do those things. And the fact that you're here tells me that you're very supportive and willing to help. So keep offering and keep kicking her in the butt if you have to, you know. And if I have to, I'll get involved. I'll kick her in the butt. I'll put me on her. I'll do it. All right, guys. Well, I think I probably should wrap up. But thank you so much for your attention and your time. And please reach out to me if you need anything. I think this session is recorded, but I'm also happy to share the slides with you guys if you want any of that. Or just reach out to me via app or Facebook or whatever. Please get in touch with me if I can help you guys with anything, okay? Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all.